Stay. Hey, Dan.
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Good, thanks.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great.
Good.
Hi, Air.
Hello.
George.
Hi.
Hey, Terry.
Hey, George.
Hey. Hey, Nick.
Hey, Terry, you gonna put some music on for us? It looks like you have some records in the background there.
That'll be the mid-meeting break. I'll do that.
I think we should DJ this.
Yes.
How's everyone doing?
Hanging in there.
Yeah, that about sums it up.
Yes.
Really wishing I could play outside. The weather today was so beautiful. I was like looking up at the mountain, looking at all the people wandering around, and probably too many people wandering around enjoying the nice weather, but it looked like a really nice day to be outside.
Yeah, I walked around yesterday. My neighborhood was pretty much deserted.
I think it's maybe just where I'm situated. It's always a very busy corner. Lots of people are walking by all the time.
Right.
And that has only increased since people have more time to take walks. And so it's been very entertaining to look out my living room window just to see a stream of humanity just out on the sidewalk.
Now you know how dogs feel.
Oh, I entirely sympathize with my dogs now. I'm just sit there on the couch with them. Oh, hi, there's a person walking by.
You're not jumping off the couch and running to the window all the time, are you?
Oh, I am. I entirely am. Yep.
when you start squirrel problem. Yes.
Yep. I've named the squirrel that sits on my porch. Her name is Fluffernutter.
Yeah, I had an unfortunate squirrel incident this weekend. I had to.
I see we're just to let everyone know. I see we're live and recording as well.
Oh, we are. Okay. I'll save that for another time.
Yes.
We're the Squirrel Rights Organization.
Have I been missing the? Are we doing calls on Mondays, like at 5?
No, that was for the 1 week we had off.
Okay.
There's not much point in doing that. We can update everyone here.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. We'll organize the calendar appropriately.
Yeah.
We're the Squirrel Rights Organization.
Right.
All right, that's 7 on my clock. I'm gonna start up. So I think we open with a call to order. There's a pretend gavel in front of me. I just gavelled it. Let's do a pledge. I'm going to stand for that. You all can do as you wish. Here we go. So I pledge allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag
of the
United States of America,
and
to the
republic
for which it
for which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
with liberty
and
justice for all.
All right. we could just have a moment of silence to mourn the loss of many of our community members, whether here or in New York or across the country, and also just a moment of thanks for all the healthcare workers who are the front line of defense against this crisis. So just a moment. Thank you. Let's do a roll call. I think, what do I got out there? Do I have George Mansfield? I can see you.
Here.
Amber Grant.
Here.
Somewhere. Yep. Terry, Ward 1.
Here.
Air, Ward 2.
I am here.
Jody, Ward 3.
Here.
And Dan, Ward 4.
Here.
All right, we got a full house. I'm here. I can see Anthony and I can see our city attorney, so welcome everybody. Everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Good. All right. So first order of business is public comment. We have two versions of it. Let's see if we can do this. So one is just a pure public comment, but I want to note that there are public hearings on 4 items, and so you're free to speak on any item or any subject matter for up to 3 minutes. Other than those for which there's a public hearing tonight, let me remind you what the 4 public hearings are. There's one on the Stretch Energy Code. There's one on zoning for the Central Main Street District. There's one on notices for public hearings, and then there's one on vehicles and signs. We did have one on HDLO. We're pulling that, and we're going to adjourn it, and we will have to renotice that because we're not ready to go yet. Okay, so those are the ones. If anyone has in the public who's on, oh, do we need a notice on virtual public meetings? Nick?
No need to know that, other than the fact that the council is meeting tonight pursuant to the governor's executive order and has fully complied with that order.
All right, thank you very much. So again, anyone on the line who wants to have an opportunity to speak other than those items, just let us know. How do we do that, Colin?
You've got one person on the line.
Okay. Let's go.
And they're not raising their hand.
All right. So that says I think we're okay. Not hearing any comments. Let's just go on directly to our public hearings. That's all right. There'll be another opportunity at the back end. So if you want to say something, then you'll have that opportunity as well.
Just a point of information.
Yep.
What are the ways that people have to call in to a number or join the Zoom call in order to comment?
Colin?
Those are the ways.
Or the council has also indicated it accepts emails sent in advance of the meeting,
Yes, right.
that it will receive them.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, all right. I have the equivalent of one comment I received by email then. Let me put that into the record.
I think, wasn't that for the second public hearing, Mayor?
Oh, yeah, right. Okay, so we'll put it in for that. Okay, yep, good. All right, so let's start them up. First one is a public hearing on the New York Stretch Energy Code. And I'll take a motion to open that.
Motion.
Second.
In a second. So who was the second?
That was me.
Okay, so Air and Jody. And then let's open it up. And then if Nick, you can give a 2-sentence explanation of what it is.
Certainly, Anthony was going to do that.
Yep.
That's okay. So the 2-sentence explanation is for the stretch code. It's more stringent than the New York State-based energy code that can be adopted by the local jurisdictions. The stretch code amends the current energy code with a standard that is 10 to 20% more efficient, again, depending on climate zone and building type. We also received, that's into the record, letter of support from Janet Joseph, Senior Vice President, Strategy and Marketing for NYSERDA. She actually was here and gave a presentation with Eleanor. And I also understand that later on in the year, this may be amended again, but depending on with everything happening, we thought it was good to go forward with this. We'll be, I understand New York City adopted it, but we'll be the first city smaller than New York City, or municipality smaller than New York City to adopt it.
Okay. And the only thing I will note is that the code is actually presented by the state, and it is based on the existing code, and it simply accelerates likely implementation of the next pieces. So it's not as if it's dramatically different as much as moving a step ahead.
That's correct.
All right, so any public comments on this one?
Hello?
That Teresa?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Welcome.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi. I was calling in for the public hearing or the public comment. Which goes first?
Well, you kind of missed the public comment, unless you want to.
I kept hitting the numbers and it wasn't
All
getting
right,
me
so
anywhere.
then why don't you do the public comment? That'd be perfectly fine.
Okay. Okay. So I'm curious, where are the numbers of deaths in Beacon? Where are the numbers in Dutchess County? And why have they stopped being publicized? What are they hiding? Everyone knows you have to pay for a newspaper obituary, so we're not seeing the real numbers. Following social media accounts with photos of the mob streets of Beacon and the trails is disheartening, as well as putting us all in danger. Reading the hostility banter between neighbors is even worse. We are Beacon strong. We must be diligent. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right, let's go back to the public hearing on the stretch energy code.
Are there a lot of people online?
Colin, can you help us out?
We have one person on the line.
Okay. Anyone want to comment on it?
I do.
Anyone? All right. State your name.
This is Teresa Kraft.
Okay.
I've been reading up on this quite a bit. I understand the New York Stretch is an initiative, NYSERDA, supporting statewide help to achieve reduced energy consumption and reduce greenhouse gas emissions through the adoption of advanced energy code. But we must also consider the physical health of humanity and the quality of life for Beacon residents. A problem I have is the adding of larger amounts of hazardous plastic insulation within these wall assemblies to reduce fuel heating consumption. Construction design professionals have traditionally used non-combustible insulation products. However, pushing the R value higher will force projects to specify the use of more flammable plastic insulation products such as spray foam and XPS and EPS boards. Styrene contains a toxin substance, styrene and benzene, suspected carcinogens and neurotoxin hazards to humans. Plastic insulation does not have a history of practical use in exterior applications on taller buildings, but we'll see it. Increased use of combustible insulation could increase fire risk and fire spreading in the structure and beyond. In addition, many of these foam plastic insulation products are dimensionally unstable that will degrade over a long period of time, decreasing the R values. Why would we want to stand behind these guidelines that have so many unquestioned answers, so many unanswered questions? I'm sorry. That's my take on the poison.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments for this public hearing?
There is no one else on the line, and we did not receive any written comments.
Okay. So we'll take a motion to close.
Motion.
That's Amber.
Second.
And Air is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So that's one. So Nick, do I open public hearings with motions or just close them? Or do I do both?
We just close them. Typically, the city has not, and it's not legally required. You've already noticed it. So we
Alright.
just take a motion to close
All right.
or
So
adjourn.
go to the second one. The second one is regarding building height on Central Main Street. And if we can get the 3-minute overview of that, I would appreciate it. I don't know if that's John, I think you're there.
I'm here.
There you go. Thank you.
So right now, the Central Main Street District allows 4-story buildings with a step back. But the council wanted to tighten up the law a little bit more. And so they've made suggestions here in the draft law for a number of refinements. The first one is that the council may waive or reduce the step back requirement set forth here upon a finding that the city council that this waiver is warranted due to special conditions of the site or particular character or limited nature of the proposed development. And 2, that the waiver is consistent with the goals in promoting the health, safety, and general welfare of the community. This was designed to give the council a little leeway if there's some special circumstances to the site. And it also allows the council to weigh in first before an applicant might go for a variance to the ZBA, so that the ZBA would understand what the council's thinking on it. The second one is, under the current law, if there's a special permit for a 4th story, if you're in the HDLO, the landmark or historic district overlay zone, or you're abutting that parcel, you have to go to the council for the special permit rather than the planning board. This tightens it up a little further by making the parcel across the street also have to go to the council. So if you're in the HDLO, if you're abutting, or if you're directly across the street, you have to go to the council for the special permit rather than the planning board. It allows, the third change is to limit allows the council to limit the length of any such 4th floor. So if they think the building is too long, or for some other reason they want to modify the length of the 4th floor addition, they can do that.
And John, for those who aren't familiar, can you just lay out what HDLO is?
Yeah, it's a historic district and landmark overlay zone. It's administered by the city. It's recognized, identified, and historic properties in the city that deserve extra look, either by the planning board or the council. The next change is that the council or the planning board shall have the right to require an applicant to provide alternative plans or renderings in sufficient detail as requested. So if they're proposing a 4th story, you can ask for alternatives to see what other options might be available. And then the last one, which I think is probably the most important of the changes, is that right now, all the code says that although not required, you can get extra points for additional below market rate housing or commercial uses on upper floors or provision of public space or green space. Instead of making that a factor to consider, the council is proposing that that be required, so that all such building height special permits shall also require a specific public benefit as determined by the council or planning board. And then it lists 3 or 4 examples of what might be an acceptable public benefit, including additional below market rate housing above what would otherwise be mandated, commercial uses included on the upper floor, additional parking spaces available for general public use, green building or renewable energy features beyond what is required by code, or the construction and/or maintenance of public plaza space or green space. So those are the primary changes.
Okay, thank you, John.
Thanks, John. Question. I had written a memo with some ideas with regards to the public benefits. We ran out of time in a workshop meeting in late February, and I agreed that we would take up the contents of that memo in a later workshop. Do we still have time to do that, even though we're in public hearing?
Yes, as I understand it, we can finish our public hearing and then take it up and then go from there. We can either adjourn it or finish it. Is that right?
That is correct. If you, If you're intending or the potential is there to make significant changes, then I would recommend adjourning the public hearing because otherwise you would have to renotice it.
All right, so I think the prudent thing to do would be to adjourn it. That would give us the option either way, and then we go from there. That's kind of how I was thinking it through. If that's all right?
Thank you very much. Yep.
Of course. All right. Any comments on fourth floors?
Just the one that we received by email.
If you could read it, Anthony.
Sure. So it says, Dear City Council, I cannot take part in tonight's meeting. I think that setback requirements for fourth floor should be absolute to avoid further bulking of the Main Street viewscape and maintaining sufficient sunlight. Further respect to special conditions for fourth floor, I suggest adding the word significant in front of the word additional with respect to below market rate housing beyond what is required. And this is received from Arthur Kamens.
Okay, thank you. Okay, other comments? Public comment.
I have a public comment. This is Teresa.
Okay, go ahead.
How many times do we get the golden opportunity to change our mistakes or hit the restart button? I don't think the money will be flowing into these types of massive build-outs in the near or unforeseeable future. We cannot allow developers to tempt us with incentives to build out beyond the new proposed max height of 3.5 stories with that setback. The city should not be able to waive or reduce the setback requirements or allow additional floors regardless of any special conditions offered. I say no more 6-month moratoriums. We need one that's longer. Let's give it a year or two. Put creative strategy on the agenda. Today we're facing a hunger crisis as demand for food bank soars in our own community. And it's only been a few short weeks in this pandemic and people are scrambling. This is hardcore evidence that Beacon must work harder on the affordable and low income housing crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa.
If I could throw in one more suggestion.
Okay, John.
That came up today as I was rereading the law in preparation for this meeting. Under one of the public benefits, it says commercial uses included on an upper floor. That's in the existing code. It was left as is. But I would suggest you either change that to a commercial use. So if there was a larger commercial use rather than a plural commercial uses, that you could put in a DocuWare or some other large employer and it would count. Or if you wanted to further refine the language, you could say a commercially used floor or floors included above the ground level. So instead of just a commercial use or commercial uses, you would have to have an entire floor of commercial uses, which I think is was the intent when this was put in the words, just never got fully described.
Okay, so we could take that up at workshop because I think we'll have that opportunity. Thanks, John. Other public comments? Okay.
You've got, sorry, Mayor, you've got 2 people on the line.
Oh, anyone?
If you'd like to speak, press *9 on your keypad.
Okay. Looks to me like I will entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing for...
To May 4th.
I'm sorry?
May 4th would be your next council meeting date.
Yes.
All right, let's try May 4th. Can we get a motion for that?
Motion.
The public hearing till May 4th.
All right, I think I heard Terry and Jody. Is that right? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, any nays? Hearing none, so we're adjourned. That'll give us an opportunity to pick this up in workshop. We've got at least a couple of items to kind of go through, and we'll go from there, all right? Thank you. Yeah, this was one of the ones where we thought we could do most of the public hearing. The HDLO was the one we didn't feel like we really had a statute in front of us, so we wanted to defer that one. I didn't want to defer too many more. So thank you for your patience on that. The third one is on noticing of public hearings. And so if we could get the quick version of that from Nick.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is an amendments to section 223-61.3 of the zoning ordinance, and it pertains to public hearings for land use applications, special use permits before the city council, planning board and zoning board applications. And so there are a number of changes, and which I'll explain, and then I'll go through the procedural aspect. We're now requiring the opportunity to require one additional local newspaper for publication, in addition to the official newspaper. The requirement for when you send it in mail is now going to be return receipt are not required. It will only be by certified mail, because there's been an issue in the past of people not picking up a return receipt. Certified mail makes sure that there is proof that it was actually mailed. And the radius distance has been modified so that it's 250 feet for all single, 2, and 3 family properties, and to all property owners within a radius of 500 feet for multifamily, non-residentially zoned and non-residential uses. And the third category of changes was for signs to be posted, to reduce that from 14 days to 10 days. And that was because the city council meets every 2 weeks. We were getting up against a logjam on agendas that just wasn't procedurally working out well at the staff level. The local law was referred to the county planning board, which had no comments, and deferred to the city as it was a local matter, as well as to the city planning board. The city planning board reviewed this at its meeting last Tuesday, so you have not had a chance to workshop their comments. They had 3 comments, which are detailed in your agenda packet. 1, the deadline for public notice sign posting should be changed to 10 days for applications for all boards. The planning board detailed how that for 2-week requirement, 14 days, poses problems for their applicants as well, which if they miss it, they then have to come back another 30 days. And they felt that 10 days was sufficient notice. Second, add the following waiver provisions: modifications to notification requirements. The approval authority may modify or waive the notification requirements as described herein unless required elsewhere by county or state law. There was a discussion at the planning board meeting that if an applicant is a day late or a sign falls down and doesn't get picked up or something of that nature, that the planning board would have the ability to waive that discrepancy. And item 3 they noted was clarify language to make clear the classification of the application of the subject property determines the public notice radius, not the classification of the recipient. So they want to make sure it's the project that determines the radius, not the person who would receive the notice. So that's an easy one to clarify. The first 2 would require discussion by the city council.
Okay. Thank you, Nick. So I'll just open up any public comments on this one.
I do not see any raised hands.
Okay. I'll just wait another few seconds and then we'll take a motion. So, Nick, if we are undertaking the recommended changes of the planning board, do you think that's significant enough to require leaving open the public hearing, or can we adjourn it, you think?
I think you can close it based upon the ones that they made have been discussed at the public hearing. They were discussed by the planning board. I don't see that they're substantively significant. So if the council wished to close the hearing, workshop the discussion, and then vote on a modified local law at the next meeting, that would be appropriate.
All right, so if I've got a council member willing to make a motion to close this hearing, I'll entertain it.
Mayor, you have one
Close.
raised.
What's
Motion
that?
to close the hearing.
You have a raised hand.
Oh, okay. So just who was the motion and who was the second? Let me just confirm those.
I think I was the motion.
Okay, Amber, and the second?
I think I might have gotten it.
All right, Dan.
Dan.
And then just hold a minute and let's see who we got. All right, so let's wait just a moment. And if someone likes to speak, this is a good time.
It was only me. It's Teresa. I was hitting the button the whole time. I just wanted to say I support the new changes and requirements going forward. It makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I had a motion from Amber and a second from Dan to close this public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yep. All right, not hearing a nose, we've got that closed. We will take it back into workshop, but unless there's a substantial change, we'll move to a vote after workshop. All right, thank you. Then the last one regarding from the recommendations from traffic safety regarding vehicles and transportation. Is this one yours, Anthony?
Yes. So as we went through the workshop, there's just a number and series of actual stop signs that we're looking to codify that are there but haven't been put into the code. There was also remove Walcott Avenue from the city code section 211-12B. Doing so would allow trucks to drive on Walcott Avenue. That's a little stretch that kind of goes up around the corner. The only other thing that we're also recommending is the items that deal with Roundtree Court. The Homeowners Association, we had a request from, they haven't had a chance to review them yet. So just for those items alone, we were recommending adjourning the public hearing until May 4th. That'll give them the time to review it. And also they're going to meet the highway superintendent out there to go through those issues. So you can close the public hearing for all the other items except for Roundtree Court.
All right, thank you. So let's see if there's any public comments on these. These are mostly stop signs and making adjustments to do things like have trucks on Walcott.
You have one raised hand, Mayor.
Okay, let's have it. And the raised hand is.
Is it coming through, Colin?
No, I don't hear them. They are
Can you
on-
hear me?
Yep.
It's kind of wacky here. This is Teresa Kraft. I just have one other item that I'd like you to add to that list. I'd still like to see a stop sign at Willow Street and Main Street by the M&T Bank. And possibly they should be a stop sign on all streets that enter Main Street and East Main Street. I asked the city and the Traffic Safety Committee in January about a stop sign at the Willow and Main, and the answer was just not rational enough not to incur the modest expense to install one for the safety of residents and tourists alike. Can you please reconsider this request? Thank you.
Okay. All right, someone's noted that. So what I'll do is I'll take a motion to close the public hearing, but for the item affecting Roundtree Court, and would take a motion. That motion should include adjourning that item until
May 4th.
May 4th, right?
And that would be items 5, 6, and 7 of the administrator's April 20th memorandum.
Okay, so got a motion for that?
Motion to close the public hearing for everything except Roundtree Court, which will be adjourned to May 4th.
Second.
All right, that's pretty clear. Got Jody and Terry, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Okay, onward. And those are our 4 public hearings. Thank you all. Let's do reports, starting with Terry.
Thank you. I just have one really quick item. I want to give big thanks to Fairground and Cara Dean for all their efforts to help the underserved communities here in Beacon. They're doing a great job, and just in the spirit of Beacon Strong, they're doing a wonderful thing, and I just wanted to thank them for all their efforts. That's all I got.
All right. Air.
Well, I was going to thank Fairground also, and I can provide a little detail. I was going to thank Fairground as well as all of the other organizations who are involved in doing food distribution in Beacon. For those of you who might not be aware, there's a lot of people who are really struggling financially right now in Beacon, and so that very quickly turns into people who are hungry and people who are struggling to access food. They're stuck at home and they might not have as much money as they're used to having. And so people are really looking for ways to feed their families. And so the Beacon School District, Fairground, the Food Bank of the Hudson Valley Seed, which just changed its name to Land to Learn, Common Ground Farm, and other organizations are all working together to get food to Beacon's families. At this past week's Wednesday food distribution, 375 families were served. And so that's it's going up every week. More and more families are needing access to this food, and everyone's working really amazingly well together. Oh, and Beacon Mutual Aid, of course, as well. So thank you to everyone who is helping to make this happen. And it's just been amazing to watch the community come together and feed each other and take care of each other. So thank you. For anyone who needs food, this week, Wednesday at 10 a.m., you can go to South Ave for pedestrian food access, so it isn't walking up or arriving by bicycle, and from the middle school for driving up for food access. So again, that's Wednesday, 10 a.m., South Ave for pedestrian and bicycle, and the middle school for driving up. If you don't need the food, please don't come. Leave it for those who do. More than 50 families had to be turned away last week because there wasn't enough food to go around, and more than 100 the week before. Everyone's working to make sure that there is enough food to go around, but every week we've not yet had enough food to go around. So if you don't need the food, leave it for those who really do need the food. And thank you for everyone who's working to make sure that we do have as much food as we can to distribute. So that's the first item. I have two other quick items. The next is a wonderful way to say thank you to everyone who is working on behalf of everyone else. It is a Friday cheer and candle. I did not come up with this idea. I'm just passing along the news. The idea is that on 7 p.m. on Friday, from your doors and windows, everyone can clap and cheer. Totally optional, but I'm going to be doing it myself. The idea is that we can be cheering from our doors and windows for essential workers who have been working for us and are about to start a busier Saturday and Sunday, and for closed businesses who are hoping beyond hope that they can restart. And then at 8 p.m., if you'd like, you can light a candle for people who have passed or who are struggling. And a Little Beacon blog is going to be collecting video clips and images of this. So if you have any that you'd like to share, you can send them along to Katie there. So 7 p.m. on Friday, I'll be cheering from my door or window. And my third item, very quickly, is that I am going to hold an office hour because I have missed hearing from my neighbors and constituents. And so I know that many of you may have things you want to share with me or questions you may want to ask. So tomorrow, right away, Tuesday, April 21st, 5 p.m., I'll be holding an open office hour on Zoom, which is the same context we're meeting here. You can email me at aroads@cityofbeacon.org or call me at 845-202-1091. Again, that's 845-202-1091 if you would like me to tell you what the invite link is or call-in number. So I really look forward to hearing from you and being able to answer your questions. So that's all for me.
Thank you. Jody.
Hi. First, I want to wholeheartedly second everything that Air just said in her first item. I also would like to say that everybody talks about honoring our essential workers and cheering for our essential workers and appreciating what heroes our essential workers are. And if you really truly want to honor and appreciate our essential workers who are doing such an incredible job under such extreme circumstances, please just stay home. That is the absolute best way to honor them. That is the best way to thank them for what they're doing. Please don't make their jobs any more difficult than they already are and than they already need to be. Just don't take unnecessary risks because that's who you're hurting. A great analogy that I heard, and I'm just going to share this because I think a lot of people have been making comments about how the curve is flattening and therefore things are getting better and everything's great and we can start doing things again. Somebody compared that to going out in the rain and saying, oh, that stinks, I'm getting wet. So then you open up an umbrella and you're not getting wet anymore. And then you say, oh, look, I'm not getting wet anymore. Everything's fine. And you close the umbrella again. Guess what's going to happen? The curve is flattening because we're doing the right thing. And as long as we continue to do the right thing, we'll continue to head in the right direction. If we stop that, it's not going to be good. So that's what I got. As far as small business owners, I am one. I feel your pain. It's rough. Just a little bit of information that I've gotten from the Small Business Administration. If you had applied previously for the Payroll Protection Program, if you received a loan number from the Small Business Association, that means even if you haven't gotten an official approval or gotten your funds, if you received a confirmation that included a loan number from the Small Business Administration, that means that the funds are earmarked for you and you are still moving in the right direction. So once you have that number, you should be okay in the pipeline. I think a lot of us saw the news that Steak Shack just returned a lot of the money that they got, which was a large portion of money. I don't know how that's going to work in terms of accepting new applications. But all I can say is that, I agree with you that small businesses need, first of all, that the payroll protection program absolutely needs to be funded better and needs to get out to more small businesses. And also that it simply isn't enough, and it's not really the right help for small businesses who aren't going to be ready to hire employees back within the time frame that the payroll protection program allows for forgiveness. So please just continue to write to your representatives and let them know that they really need to do more, because that's the only way that we will be able to stay home and save lives. So that's it. Be safe, take care of each other, take care of yourselves, be kind. That's all I got.
Thank you, Jody. Dan?
Yes, thank you. I have a couple items. First, I want to just say thank you to all of our city employees, including our police and fire departments, for keeping the city running and running safely. Everybody's doing a great job. I had a firsthand experience. We had a small fire at our house that didn't cause much damage, but we got a very fast response from the fire department, and when they showed up, everybody was keeping their distance, and except for me, I walked right up to someone, and wearing masks and everything. So it was great to see. Next item I have is the census. So we're making a big push in Beacon, the best that we can during these times, to get everybody counted. Right now, only 49.7% of Beacon has been counted. That's relative to the nationwide percentage, which is 50.7%. So we're just a tiny bit behind that. So if you have not taken your census yet, please do so. And then the last item is more of a question around the operations of the Traffic and Safety Board. So sometimes the Traffic and Safety Board reaches a conclusion that a study needs to be done on traffic patterns in order to determine, say, whether a stop sign is necessary. Obviously, traffic patterns are not what they normally are, so I'm assuming these studies have been postponed. I don't know if that's a question for Anthony, but for example, there was a study that was supposed to be happening by Barb's Butcher at the corner of East Main Street, and that was supposed to take place in the month of March, I think, where half of the month people were in lockdown. So just curious how this all works.
Yeah, I think Jody might have also brought that up. So I think they're going to relook at that. I'll have to get together with Colin. So it depends, because I know there was also a question over by St. John's as far as the traffic light. So with that study obviously got postponed because of the executive orders. Plus, I also wanted to add in a couple other traffic light intersections. So depending on the study, it could be revisited, and depending also on obviously the current situation. But I will get together with Colin, because I don't think they really came to a conclusion on that one, but we can relook at that. So I'll also have Mickey look at it also, and police.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
George?
I guess I just want to follow up with what Jody was saying as a small business owner. To put it mildly, I think the payroll protection program has turned out to be an absolute travesty, and it certainly doesn't help anybody on Main Street in Beacon. You can have a minimum or a maximum of 500 workers per place. So any McDonald's, any franchise, they've gotten the money. They have the lawyers, they have the accountants, and they got all the money. And the small businesses on Main Street in Beacon, no one's getting the money. And it's terribly frustrating. It's heartbreaking for us all. And I can only hope, and I don't have much hope for this next round that's coming through, which will probably be signed the next day or two. But they're talking about a fourth round. But we need to actively representatives and advocate for actually small businesses. with far, far less than 500 people per location. It's unbelievable that this has happened. And they talk about saving small businesses, but that's certainly not what's happening. And as a small business owner, and I think I speak for many small businesses on Main Street, we are not being helped and we're suffering, and we can only hope that we can keep our doors open. So please contact, if you love your Main Street, contact your representatives in Washington. Thanks.
Thank you, George. Amber?
All right. I'll just echo some of my colleagues that now is not the time to give up. We want progress to continue, so keep staying the course, keep social distancing, keep hand washing, wear a mask, keep yourself and your neighbors safe. I know it's a difficult time in many ways, but we have to keep looking out for each other to get through it, and I hope everybody is well. And on a little bit of a different note, Earth Day is Wednesday, April 22nd. It's hard to remember what it is, but it's this week. And while our city won't have its annual cleanup or barbecue this year, I hope we can all do a little bit individually to care for our world in our own way. So please take a moment on Wednesday to pick up litter, make a change in your daily life to be more sustainable, or just appreciate your surroundings and celebration. So that might be a nice diversion for everybody. So that's all from me. Thank you.
So I don't think our county legislators are on the line, but if they are, they can raise their hand. So thank you, Council. It's actually really good to listen to you all first. You cover a lot of ground that's really important, and some of it's good news and some of it's harder news. I'm just very appreciative of all your comments, and I think we all share many of the concerns and many of the kudos that people are giving. I just want to go through a couple of things. One, just we put out a release on the city, as Dan put it, kind of continuing without missing a beat in terms of providing essential services. So I just want to read portions of that. So the city of Beacon continues to provide uninterrupted services to the community during the statewide effort to slow and reverse the spread of COVID-19. I want to thank all city employees during this time of hardship for maintaining essential services, for adapting to almost daily changes in these uncharted waters, and for assuring residents that city services are always here no matter what. Amid the challenge, the city has adapted and remained open without layoffs and despite a state order for at least 50% of non-essential staff to work from or remain at home. The city and each of its departments are committed to doing its part. And I just want to list a few of them. So police and fire, I think everyone knows that police and fire continue to operate without reduction with specific safety protocols adapted to COVID-19, as well as awareness of the potential for domestic violence because we're all stuck at home. Response times are as fast, if not faster. As I've said before, water, sewer, trash, and recycling are all continuing without interruption. Residents can absolutely rely on quality and safety standards of all those areas. Our curbside trash and recycling are on the same schedule. Our only change is that our recycling facility on Dennings Avenue is only open at present on Saturdays from 8 to noon. So it's open, but just on Saturdays, 8 to noon. With respect to City Hall, unlike many other communities, City Hall has never shut. We've remained open, but have done extensive changes in procedure to keep everyone safe. Residents have been steered to remote methods of bill payment, online application forms, and the drop box in front of City Hall. There should be a remote procedure available for every application or bill involving the city. I don't think we've got them all nailed down yet, but we're working on them. The building department continues to accept and process permits remotely. And then finally, the governor's latest order, even marriages can be performed remotely or with appropriate social distancing. So I'm happy to oblige anyone. That's what the governor did on Sunday. And I thought, yep, he's right. It's worth doing. So in terms of Parks and Rec, the city parks, I think everyone knows, are open. We have worked hard to keep them open and to give residents a place to be outdoors while social distancing. We've got large signs on appropriate use. They went up on playgrounds and courts, combined with active monitoring by the police and other city staff. However, despite near universal compliance here in the city based on our monitoring, pursuant to the governor's orders, the city shut playgrounds and courts. So I'm sorry, but that's where the state wanted us to go, and obviously we will comply. Our nearby state parks, Mount Beacon and Dennings Point, are open, but the Mount Beacon trailhead on Route 9D was closed as Scenic Hudson could not staff it, which is what our request was to them, which is understandable. The rec department head is now our COVID-19 communication director and assists local aid groups as well. I think you all know that city councils and boards, again, unlike other communities or even our county, the council, the planning board, the zoning board, the Conservation Advisory Committee, and even our new Main Street Access Committee have all continued uninterrupted. So we do things at their usual scheduled time. I just want to make sure to compliment folks on figuring out how to do that. We had, and I wanted to announce, an e-beacon initiative to substantially improve the city's website, electronic communication, and bill payment. This crisis has led us to immediately implement a number of these changes, which you now see. Our website, www.citybeacon.org, has a number of new features, including a dedicated COVID-19 webpage, the ability to sign up for Swift 911 community alerts, a comprehensive communication plan using Swift 911, Channel 22 press, and the internet, pages of community resources such as listings for food pantries, free meals, takeout restaurants, beacon businesses, and remote shopping. We have a bill pay function for card or checking accounts, and with almost 400 that have signed up in the first month. And again, that helps keep our office staff safe, so thank you. And a request for service button. I just want a quick shout out to our public works staff, which is operating at half staff and yet continues to maintain streets, parks, city buildings, and more. That included a great response last week with our downed trees and wires in the latest storm. And then finally, I just want to say everyone has a part to do to help us safely get through the peak of this pandemic and to get us to the next phase of prevention and recovery. Thank you all, city workers, healthcare personnel, volunteers providing community aid, and residents for doing your part. Keep social distancing, be kind and respectful to all. So thank you. A couple of other items, if I may. There was some coverage of the fire department and police department providing free lunches to healthcare workers. I just want to shout out to our police and fire staff. Thank you for doing that. It's great that you can keep up. And then, based on a public comment, I just want to provide the latest information on stats from the county's website. The county says, as of today, 1,865 active COVID-19 cases in the county. That's a only slight increase from the end of last week. There are 28 deaths in the county. We are not informed of deaths by community, so we are not aware of official statistics and cannot report anything as a result. I do note that Beacon in the city, we have 107 of those 1,800 and change cases in the county are in the city of Beacon. Our city of Beacon numbers have been pretty stable. They were a little less than 100 before the weekend. I think it was 98, 97 right in there. So it's a little higher, but not much. Right, so those I can report, those are official. And then finally, I just want to do a proclamation. So this month is Autism Awareness Month, but it's also Parkinson's Awareness Month. So here you go. Whereas Parkinson's disease is a progressive neurological movement disorder of the central nervous system, which has a unique impact on each patient. And whereas according to the Parkinson's Action Network, the Foundation, the American Parkinson's Disease Association, and the NIH, there are over 1 million Americans diagnosed with Parkinson's. And whereas increased education and research are needed to help find more effective treatments with fewer side effects and ultimately a cure. And whereas a multidisciplinary approach to Parkinson's disease includes care, local wellness support, and caregiver groups. And whereas April has been proclaimed as Worldwide Parkinson's Awareness Month for all to recognize the need for more research and help. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Lee Kyriakou, do hereby proclaim April as Parkinson's Awareness Month here in the city of Beacon. I will sign that and date it. That's it from me. I appreciate your patience. Anything from the city administrator?
Yes, I just had one item. Thank you, Mayor. This is actually from our fire chief. So this is regarding Dutchess County on Thursday, April 23rd at 7 p.m. So all the fire departments in the area, they will come together and thank all those in Dutchess County who have been working tirelessly in emergency services, healthcare, local government, and all supporting agencies in our communities by activating our house sirens in unison throughout the county. Length of the siren activation will be 2 cycles, so we'll announce this again and put it on our website. But this will be for Thursday, April 23rd at 7 p.m. If you hear the sirens, it's just thanking all of the healthcare workers, local government, and emergency services.
And Anthony, you think our siren on Tompkins House works?
It would be the one on, actually, he's going to test it. Thank you, Mayor. So he's going to test that in the next couple of days. So you may hear that also, and that's just a testing. And we can also put that on, we can actually do a Swift or put that on our website so people don't misinterpret it.
Right. We don't use them in our modern response, but we're using it for this.
Correct.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Local laws and resolution. We have, it says a consent agenda. Do we want to do these all together or should we do them in parts? I'm going to suggest we do them individually. That's all right? Objection? All right, so let's do a resolution adopting the New York Stretch Code, because I think there may be some comments on some of these. I'll take a motion on that.
Motion.
So Amber.
Second.
And Terry. Any discussion on adopting the New York Stretch Energy Code? Well, go ahead, Erin.
I'm very excited about the stretch code. Ever since I became aware of the stretch code when we were discussing it initially on the CAC a number of years ago, I saw the great potential that this had for encompassing a number of the different priorities that the city had been discussing and that the CAC had been discussing. And the way that the stretch code is so very well researched and has the benefit of the knowledge of so many people who have been just thinking about this and spending a lot of time. Lawyers and building code experts and construction experts have just put so much thought into just really exactly what the code should be and exactly what materials should be used and all of that. So I really appreciate the amount of thought and time that's already been put into informing the sort of the really best practices code that that we as a municipality can adopt, so that we can really be taking Beacon into the future of what is the best energy code for the greenest Beacon. So I'm really excited that we're going to be moving forward with this.
So I just want to add one comment to that, which is when I first heard of it, I had some sort of uncertainty as to what it is. And once you hear that it's actually taking the current state energy code and, as Air referenced, having NYSERDA and the relevant people in the state suggest here is how you take one step forward on a number of categories, as opposed to coming up with totally different standards or picking and choosing, favorite items. It's just saying it's the current code, move forward one step in terms of the direction it was likely going anyway, and doing it one time cycle sooner. That's just a very effective and rational approach. So I think it's great.
And if anyone was interested, I know that there's a lot of information in tonight's agenda. And if anyone was overwhelmed by the amount of information, on page 81 of tonight's agenda, there's an FAQ that summarizes a good deal of the other information that's available on this topic. So go to page 81 of tonight's agenda if you want the short FAQ version of the information on this topic.
And the last thing I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying I always appreciate Air's thoroughness when it comes to reading a lot of details.
That means she's impressed you got to page 81. So, as am I. The only other thing I'll add is also a number of builders who are forward thinking will already meet the standard. All right, so I actually may not have much impact on our best builders, but it will pull the others along.
Yep. And you might not believe it looking at what you see behind me, but I was actually delighted to find that the renovations that I've done on my own home since I moved in here actually meet all of these code requirements. And I didn't do that on purpose, but just doing what I was doing already, just sort of as a, this seems like the right thing to be doing. Home renovator myself, I was actually really surprised to find that I was actually already meeting all of these energy codes, just buying stuff at Home Depot as a DIY home renovator. So I don't think people need to be worried about what this means in terms of code.
Okay. We all set? Do we get a motion? Or do we already have that?
You have the motion. You need a vote now by roll call.
Oh, we need a roll call, even though it's a resolution?
Yes, because you're adopting a local law and your procedures require that on local laws.
All right, so let's go by ward. Terry?
Yes.
Air?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Amber?
Yes.
And of course, I will vote yes as well. So there you go. We got a unanimous one. Okay. So now let's do resolution setting a public hearing to discuss short-term rentals. So we think we're far enough along to have a public hearing, and we want to set it for May 18th. So that is basically 4 meetings from today. And is there a motion on that?
Motion.
Okay, Terry?
Second.
And Jody, any discussion? Again, we're just setting the public hearing.
And referring this to the county and city planning board.
Okay. So we've got the version that we saw at our last workshop with some minor adjustments that are being shipped out to them.
Yes.
Correct.
Great. All right. Any further discussion on setting a hearing for the 18th of May? Okay, hearing none. That's a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, anyone opposed? Okay. Next item of business is a resolution accepting a site easement on St. Luke's Place subdivision. And I'd also do it at the same time, a resolution accepting an offer of dedication of a portion of Union Street. Those two go together. If someone wants to take us through what they are.
Certainly, I will do so, Mayor. This is arises out of a subdivision approval from the planning board. The site easement is granted to the city to ensure that the city has the ability to enforce and maintain appropriate traffic sightline distances so that landscaping doesn't encroach into the area that is needed for the traveling public to see around the corner. The second is an offer of dedication of a portion of Union Street that is located on the private property, which is being given to the city at no cost to legalize the city's use of that portion of the public street on private property. And both of these would be a roll call because they're accepting property.
Okay, and then let me just add, this is the lot on the northeast corner of St. Luke's and Union. And the site easement is basically the corner. And the dedication is a small portion of the lot to give Union Street its full length in terms of being part of the city. So given that Nick has said we need roll calls, I'll do them one at a time. Let's do the site easement regarding St. Luke's Place. Can I get a motion on that?
Motion.
So I got Ann and Jody. One at a time. Terry?
Yes.
Air?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
George? Let's go to, there we go. Amber?
Yes.
And Lee says yes. Okay, let's do the second one. Now this is dedicating a portion of that lot for Union Street to get it all under city property. I need a motion. Is that Dan again?
Yes.
And Jody again is the second? Okay, let's do the roll call. Terry?
Yes.
Air?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
And
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Amber?
Yes.
And Lee votes yes. Okay, that's 4, Dan. Now we have a resolution approving interim operations for the Beacons Farmers Market. Not sure we need it, but Nick recommended that we do a quick resolution on it. So can you just take us through that, Anthony?
Sure. This is really just formalizing what we discussed last week, their plan. Also, they were in operation for the distribution only, the interim distribution this weekend. I spoke to the market manager on Sunday and everything went fine. There weren't any issues. Also, I just checked at staff level and there wasn't any issues. Everything went well. Well, the resolution is just formalizing going forward for the distribution, and the plan is attached to the resolution.
Can I get a motion on that?
Motion. Oh, I think it was Jody, then me. I'll second.
All right, there we go. Any discussion?
Point of clarification.
Yes.
In the agenda, it said the letter was dated the April 14th, and I believe the letter that you emailed us a copy of was dated April 16th. Super minor. Just wanting to be accurate.
Yep.
Cool.
We can just change that.
Okay. I just want to compliment the thoroughness of the manager in both laying out a plan that works under the current social distancing arrangements and being responsive to both the city and to neighbors. And I think that's the right approach to get this done. So thank you. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, all right, great. 5 down. Last one is a resolution to extend a towing agreement with Cervone Auto Body. Anybody want that one? Make that motion.
Me, I was too eager last week. I get to do it now. Motion.
Here.
Second.
And Jody. Any discussion? Is there anything interesting you need to say, Anthony, on this one?
Again, this is just the tow agreement with Cervone's, and this is just the agreement with the city for city vehicles, or if there's an accident. I know there's another section of the code that discusses private property. That's not this. This is, again, just the city's agreement. The police are happy with right now the way it's operating, and this will just, I think it expired, and then this will just renew the contract.
Okay. We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nick, I don't have to do a roll call on that, do I?
No.
Okay.
The city's not spending money, so not needed.
All right. I think we're at the second opportunity for public comment. Anyone who hasn't spoken at the first one or the first several hearings? Colin, we got anybody?
You've got 2 people on the line. No hands are raised. If you'd like to raise your hand and you're on a phone, please press *9. If you're on a computer or a phone, please look at the bottom of the video chat. You'll see an unmute option.
Okay. So hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Mary and Jody, I just want to say, this is an interesting process. It works okay. I'm really looking forward to seeing you all in person. But this is working, and we keep everything moving forward. So thank you so much for all your participation. All in favor of the motion to adjourn?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. Good night.
Aye.
See ya.